All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This has been a hot topic out there. I've actually was looking at doing a presentation on this a while back, and it seems like we've done a couple blogs now and a couple speaking engagements on this topic, and thought we would put together a webinar here at Sikich. This is brought to you by the Sikich Risk Services and faster compliance, stronger security, and lasting resilience. That's really what we're about here in the risk practice. And welcome to today's webinar. Imagine waking up to the headlines. Global manufacturing company suffers 4 million loss after a single ransomware attack. Starting to see those headlines here over the last 10 to 15 years of breaches and how they're impacting organizations. While your competitors avoided the breach and also landed 2 new contracts. That's not the scenario we want to have, right? We don't want to be part of a breach of losing money while our competitors are gaining revenue and brand recognition. And really, that comes down to, an untapped opportunity to manage it correctly, right? Manage compliance, manage security, manage our business objectives, so that we could, land these 2 new contracts. And that comes by driving our revenue, strengthening our resilience, and kind of bolstering our reputation by implementing cybersecurity. My name's Ken Squires. I've been in the industry for over 26 years. Got a lot of certifications behind me there, but really spent the last 15 years being a VC, so for multiple clients, over hundreds. And really, each one of those has different challenges, different regulations, different compliance needs, cybersecurity needs, and business objectives. And as we go through, take a time here to go ahead and scan the QR code and link and connect with me at LinkedIn. I'm always available if you guys need any kind of advisory or just want to pick my brain on any topics when it comes to cybersecurity, risk management, and really focus on quantifying what matters in the organization. Speak at a lot of boards, speak at a lot of associations, just quantifying risk and transitioning that risk into business opportunities. And really, that's our topics today. So take a little second here to scan my barcode. I'll give you a chance to kind of connect with me on LinkedIn. All right, perfect. You can also reach me at ken.squires@sikich.com. And I lead our cybersecurity practice within the risk services at Sikich. So really my team helps perform risk assessments, security testing through pen testing and application testing. We also build compliance programs for CMMC, PCI, GLBA, SOC 2. We do a lot of the readiness work with building those policies, standards, building the practices, creating incident response plans, run books, and really kind of getting a company up to speed over the last 15 years, taking a lot of that experience of being an auditor and an assessor and streamlining processes to help companies get to compliance quicker. We have a lot of frameworks built. We have a lot of subject matter experts to help you take you through the different controls and frameworks that are out there and help you build your cybersecurity practice according to your business objectives to show that return on investment. And so reach out to me, reach out to any of the sales staff at Sikich to get a consultation. This part of this webinar, we're offering a free strategic business overview, really kind of a high level going through what your compliance challenges are and pain points and helping provide some quick remediation efforts for that. So reach out to myself or Jeff Hayes or anybody else on my sales team. So I recently attended this year a nice talk by Ted Fitzgerald at CyberCon. And what I liked about it was the role of a CISO over the last 20 years And I added my own role here where we're currently at, how I feel in the industry where the CISO is, and being a VCISO for multiple companies right now, over 12 companies I'm a VCISO for actively at this moment, and a meeting on biweekly basis. And what I'm seeing is that it really comes down to the managing that budget and providing that return on investment of security controls we've been putting in place. But you can kind of see over the last 20 years how the role has changed for a CISO. And if you're in this role, it kind of depends on the maturity of your company where you're at. A lot of the company's maturity when it comes to cybersecurity are still in the early 2000s, right? And at this time, the person that's fulfilling that role is an IT or somebody that kind of knows security, have taken some classes on security, and they just have they're just an engineer that are performing that security role, which is, as you go through this, my background, I was fortunate. I'm in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps as a IT specialist in communications, and then worked for the banks in the early 2000s, First Union to Wachovia to Wells Fargo. So a lot of the things that I learned were in the early 2000s, but not every company is like that. They are still having a young intern or somebody like that performing their security roles. And as you can kind of see, the maturity of your company kind of rolls through these different roles as a CISO. We had that CISO that would lock down everything, and it was a real barrier. They weren't taking it into any account for business. And then we kind of rolled into the check the box, like, all right, security questionnaire comes in or compliance, and we're just going to put in the bare minimum, check the box that we have it in place. And then a lot of the sophistication and threats came out there, and breaches. And now we have the responder, the like reactive incident responder CISO. And then it came, let's be proactive and let's manage our risk and go through, adopt a framework and do a risk assessment and manage remediation efforts towards the risk register, right? And then now it started getting to cybersecurity as an operations, and that's really where we should be at today. Cybersecurity should be part of your operations. It really should be looked at from the executive level as a business objective. And then, getting here in the early 2000s, the cloud environments and moving to the cloud and this kind of streamlining processes and migrating off of on-prem systems to the cloud environments. But what I currently feel, again, like I said, we're in the ROI-driven CISO now. There should be part of business operations. There should be a return on investment in everything we think about putting in place. So what are some of those investments really? I mean, if you look at it, there's a lot that goes into security. As we like kind of present in our VCISO services, the reason why we're so successful at it is because we have the expertise in these areas where a lot of companies, they're focused on IT, and IT is about implementing and supporting. They're not about audit prep and certifications and reviewing all the regulations. And really, you need a kind of subject matter expert to come in and say, man, what are all my obligations that are out there when it comes to regulations and controls and that, and support. And these are the types of things that are the new investment for your IT budget. I don't cover it in this presentation, but I'd like to hit on it where I wrote a blog out there called the Cyber Poverty Line. And it really is, as I've taken some research and Gartner reports and that, and if you look at your revenue, a lot of times your IT budget is 10 to 7% of your revenue. And if you look at that, your security and compliance budget is 2 to 3% of that. And that's what we're seeing in some research. So as you look at some of these prices, are you going to be able to invest in cybersecurity if you're setting your budgets for your IT department or security department at those levels? So this has helped you out. I take a snapshot of this, and really it's kind of an industry standard of what we're seeing, and even kind of our price ranges on certain things that we offer, right? So If you look at it, implementing any kind of frameworks, whether it's SOC 2 or ISO 27001 or NIST cybersecurity framework or NIST 800-171 for CMMC, all these things we handle here at Sikich. And as we help clients prepare for those budgets, you can see that just the audit preparation, let's just say you had everything in place, can be up to $40,000 just for the audit preparation. The reality is building out the programs can reach up to, 150,000 plus when you put together all the implementation and policies and standards and processes and hires. And so as you look at these industries and what kind of investment you're going to have to make to become SOC 2, ISO 27001 compliant or CMMC, we should start preparing for those $150,000 budgets. And that's really something that hasn't been budgeted over the years for a lot of clients and that. Certifications. So not only do you get the audit prep services, but then, the actual certifying bodies coming in, and those can range between 15 and 50K depending on your complexity. And then it's not done. Compliance is no longer just a check the box. That's what I was talking about, the check the box ISO. It's now a continuous compliance, recertification, surveillance, and all that. And that, that's even there, looking at that recertification can be 10 grand. I feel like I'm even kind of low on some of these numbers here, but looking at what, a program, a baseline, these are some of the investments that we're going to have to take into consideration when it comes to a CISO or CIO. That doesn't even count the technical safeguards. So as we implement encryption, firewalls, endpoint management, all these things have a cost to them. And it really is, again, a budget mover, right? So if you look at upgrading firewalls, we've had a lot of companies have had this, these static firewalls in place and haven't upgraded to next gen firewalls. And that budget there, you can look at, it could be range from, if you're a small office, is $500 per little firewall, or up to $200K for some of the larger enterprise chassis firewalls that are out there. A lot of the different companies, we put some of our partners on here that we work with, and know some of these prices from there. And really, infrastructure and taking in consideration the technical safeguards you're going to have to put in place to meet some of these requirements that are out there. Endpoint protection, those usually are license based, and those could cost, $10 to $20 per seat. And knowing how many, employees you have and users, start budgeting those types of things. So looking at, and as we talk about the users, they're the weakest point, right? The chain link, right? In your security. So we need training, right? Training, to me, I feel like is the best return on investment you can have. I know it might be cliche or something, but it really is. It's your people, right? So security awareness training should be one of those items that needs to be refined. It can't be that once a year PowerPoint presentation or video. It really should be ingrained to everything that you guys are doing. But you can see the cost there. So per user, as you start adding these license for each employee, then training for each employee, these are just some of the investment inputs that are going to be into this kind of return on investment. So how do we get that return? Well, I'm about to show you throughout the rest of the slides here, but I wanted to show this kind of some pricing that's out there and have you get a awareness of the cost. And once we put that cost in place, I truly believe you really get the 3 R's here, the output: increased revenue, increased resilience, and increased reputation. Really, if you focus, think about it, those 3 R's, how do we turn risk and cybersecurity into and compliance into increased revenue, resilience, and reputation? And I'll give you an example of that here. A quick investment of upgrading to next gen firewalls, working with an MSSP and having that SOC monitoring, So you might have an MSP that's providing, server builds or computer, PC, laptop build outs, and they're kind of managing your infrastructure and onboarding into the domain or managing your Microsoft 365 environment. But do you have actual security operations? And that's what SOX is there, and responding and getting that in place. And then, like I said, staff training. That small investment really can, and we've seen it, and Palo Alto's got a blog out there as well, an increased revenue of 30% lift in new contracts. If you look, and I'll talk about that in the next slide, really a lot of these contracts are requiring cybersecurity compliance in that, right? So making small investments really can, and maybe for some 250K obviously is not a small investment, but when you're bidding on these contracts, you'll see the return on that. Also, having these things in place, this reduces that incident response time. And as we know, and as we've heard, it's not when, it's not if, it's when. It's going to happen, right? So at some point, there would be some type of incident. Now we hope that we have controls in place to manage that, and it's just a quick recovery, maybe a password change or so. But every day, our networks are getting attacked. There's threats, constant threats. And if you ever were a firewall administrator or IDS or log administrator and kind of seeing what's out on the internet being hit, you're being scanned, you're being just surveyed to see if there are any weaknesses on a daily basis. And then a lot of times reputation. I mean, a lot of companies' revenue is based solely on their brand, right? I mean, if you shop on Amazon, which ones are you going to pick for reviews? Are you picking the cordless fan that has 5 reviews that are ranked third, or are you picking the cordless fan that has 5,000 reviews and is got a 4-star review, right? That's the mindset. That's the where we're at for a lot of customers that are out there. It's our brand reputation, and really taking a look at how does security, how does compliance, how does all that boost our brand. So I threw this one in here. I wanted to show a quick example. One thing, again, you saw my main thing, quantifying risk. That's my expertise. That's what I do. I help companies quantify risk so they can make the proper investments. It's literally a dedicated service that we provide here that I'm the subject matter expert in. And this is recently using some of the AI tools that we have and connections into the Palm, IBM, and Verizon breach database and KnowBe4. We've collected a lot of data and started building threat modeling tools to kind of produce, well, not kind of, to produce KPIs. So as a VC, so my biggest thing of presenting to the board and return on investment is KPIs, and looking at our systems, whether it's KnowBe4, whether it's Qualys for vulnerability scanning, Nessus, CrowdStrike, whatever you're using as your tools, SentinelOne to fulfill compliance and security requirements. All of those are generating reports. And how do we take what those things are doing, they're performing, they're protecting us, and presenting that in business terms? And this is one simple way that people overlook phishing campaigns. And it's like, all right, yeah, we want to reduce the click and who's clicking and what's that, but how do we put a cost to those phishing attempts? And really, we've come up with and looked at the analysis, and this is a quick one for you. This is kind of, if you guys want to take this away, we've come up with, and not just us, but IBM, KnowBe4, and using the Verizon breach database, a value to what it is every time somebody clicks on a phishing email when there's no breach. It's just a click, okay? A lot of times people are concerned just for breaches. They don't, they don't take into consideration of the effort it takes for IT remediation, the user's downtime, the credential reset, and the security follow-up. They don't understand the cost of that. And so by implementing a simple phishing campaign and reducing the number of clicks for your company, this is a great example. So before our training, we had a 11% click rate. There was 16.5 incidents that were out there in the quarter. And then if we look at that's 9,000 per click. Well, we reduced that down through training and our investment down to 2% with only 3 clicks at 9,000. So we have an 82% reduction in clicking. We have 13.5 incidents down. We saved the company $121,500 for that quarter in that phishing campaign. I'm really hoping this scenario opens your eyes to how to present to management of the tool sets that you need for compliance and how to present these KPIs with the tools that you have. I really suggest looking through your solutions that you have and whatever different security solutions and compliant controls you have, and coming up and quantifying the value that those things are protecting your organization against. So when you're asking for budget, if we're saving $121,000 a quarter on having phishing campaigns, and it only costs $25,000 to $40,000 a year for the product, and it could be even lower. I'm just kind of knowing what some of my clients are paying for things. That's a huge return on investment. All right. And so this is just one example of producing those KPIs and how to talk to management or the board about why we have these tool sets in. And we can't rip them out. If we rip them out, this could be the potential cost of ripping these tool sets out when we're looking at our budget. All right, so the first R, revenue, right? That's what we're here for. How do we get more revenue? And that really comes down to being that market differentiation. I'm sorry. Having that market value, bringing in, providing a value that your clients aren't, that your peers are not providing. And compliance is one of those things. Security is one of those things. All right. So when you go to market, you should have a go-to-market plan as you're getting these different security requirements. So really, all of us here on the call have filled out a security questionnaire at one time or an RFP. I know it, right? And one of the main things in those RFPs and security questionnaires is, you've seen this? Are you certified? Do you have an ISO 27001 certification? Are you GLBA certified? Do you have a SOC 2? Those are some of the main ones that we hear nowadays. If you're government, are you NIST 800-171, CMMC, right? These are all the things that, as we're trying to get new business and trying to be the kind of leader in that industry, compliance is one of those questions. Companies want to know, are you handling their data? And they're only going to do business with those companies that are handling their data, their customer information securely. And really, as you know, filling out these security questionnaires and filling out RFPs, when it comes to security controls, really puts in a bottleneck. Usually it's either a CFO or a procurement team or sales, and they have to reach out to the IT department and they say, hey, I have this RFP. Are we fulfilling these requirements? Are we doing endpoint protection? Do we do penetration testing? Have we done a risk assessment? What is our information security program built off of? And then you have an IT manager kind of scrambling to say, really we don't have those policies or those standards in place. And this whole time that you're having this kind of bidding and going through and trying to figure out what you have in place is slowing down and bottlenecking the sales process. And you're losing business by not being able to answer these questions quickly. And these questions can be answered quickly. It's like, yeah, here's our SOC 2 report. Here's is our ISO 27001 certification. Here's our PCI DSS um, certification. Yes, we can share this with them. We have it out on our website. We're out there. Here it is. And boom, the sales conversation is so much easier. Not only that, you could be providing great software applications or cloud services, and really it's fulfilling a business need, and your peers or your competitors are filling that same business need, right? But the client or the customer you're trying to get needs security or compliance as part of the solution. And really, from upselling and cross-selling opportunities, security first type of services are the ones that are going to be looked at by your customers and your clients over your competitors. And it really can be here. Yes, we have multi-factor in place. We have encryption in place. Yes, we provide training. And these things add value to your application, cloud solution, or services that you're providing. So you can upsell that and say, yeah, I understand that we're, maybe 3 to 5% more expensive than our competitors, but this is what we're providing. We're certified. We have certified professionals. We have security first mindset. A lot of the government contractors use us. A lot of the enterprise businesses are going to the Bank of Americas of the world or Chase Bank, a lot of financial services use us because they know that their information is secure. Where these are the client base we have because of the security controls and compliance that we have already in place, and that's going to help you upsell and cross sell your services and your products. So if we look at this, really by making those investments in security controls and revenue, you're going to win new business, right? We're going to go out there, we can upsell and cross sell on opportunities by having our embedded security into it. And the biggest thing, as we know, it speeds up the sales cycle. And we the ability to speed up a sales cycle is a powerful tool. And that's really where compliance and security comes in. You can kick the can down the road and wait for a customer to ask you, or you can go to market right from the beginning and say, this is who we are. This is how we're going to treat you and your data and your compliance requirements. I have clients on both sides, and we're always promoting to be that client that comes out the gate to say, this is who we are. We're going to, we go to market with our compliance and security. And as these RFPs and questionnaires come in, boom, they go back out the door. So that's really that first thing when it comes to generating revenue for compliance and cybersecurity. So some topics and some scenarios that I'm sure you've heard of these, but really, if you're looking to get into any kind of business when it comes to financial data or handling any PII, the customers and you should be thinking about looking at getting your SOC 2 compliance. Here at Sikich, we have a SOC 2 team. We have readiness and certification. And this has been the kind of de facto for a long time. Again, I worked for Wachovia Wells Fargo for over 12 years, third-party risk management. First thing we asked, do you have a SOC 2? Now, if you're a good due diligence assessor, you're not going to fully take that SOC 2 as the holy grail. You're going to do your own due diligence, but that's the first. I kind of want to say check the box, but for a lot of clients, it's also, yeah, you've gone through your SOC 2, we're done. Our due diligence is over. That's all we needed to know. What's in scope for your SOC 2, and do you have one in place, right? And then we're on to using your product. But really, if you're any kind of payroll or financial, that SOC 2 has been kind of the de facto for that. ISO 27001, we look at if you're a global company, the ISO framework is more of a worldwide global kind of a framework to go into. And these are really software development and insurance, telecom clients, any kind of joint ventures. So if you're looking at merger acquisitions, a lot of times I'll tell you personally, I worked on a merger acquisition that it was an investment firm came in and bought multiple, up to 6 different print shops. And they're combined them all, moved all the laser printers around, and it's just to resell. Basically, so the investors come in, bought all these print shops, merged them together as one giant print facility. And then part of that was, as through the merger acquisition, for us to help them get ISO 27001 certified so they could be a secure printer, so they could print whether it's health records or x-rays or any kind of financial statements, any of those things at these facilities and working for the VA and that. And so as part of this kind of merger acquisition and development of that was to get ISO 27001 certified so they could be more of a global company, and the value of their conglomerate there went up just for that certification. So a lot of times you'll see that. And that's areas. If you're looking to sell your company and you add these types of certifications and these products, that boosts your value in that company. Sometimes it's overlooked by a lot of different owners and partners and presidents, that they don't realize that compliance and security is a value when it comes to these merger and acquisitions and the value of your company. CMMC is the latest one. Obviously, here at Sikich, we have a huge investment in CMMC. We do have a Sikich Fed side of the house that works with the government, and on our assessor side of the house for my team, we're helping those contractors, really focused on partnering for them, since we have great expertise in actually fulfilling and managing and auditing government contracts for U.S. Transcom and HUD and the DOJ, that we can take that subject matter expertise and actually help the subcontractors meet what we're auditing on the federal side. So that gives us an advantage there. But if you've seen for the last, this is where I come with the kick the can down the road type of thing. The DOD and the government in general is starting to include data protection, data privacy as their bidding requirements. If you're not familiar with the supplier risk database, but you have to bid on a DoD contract, you have to have your self-assessment score up there for NIST 800-171. And now it's not fully in contracts. It's out there as approved for CMMC, but it's not. CFR 48 is not in place. But going forward, when this gets in place, you will have to show your CMMC certification before you can bid on certain RFPs for the DoD. And the DoD it's starting there, but it's also, like I said, Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, all the different departments are starting to put in some kind of CMMC. And we all know we would like to, not everybody, a lot of people like to stay in the commercial space, but those big government contracts, even though with the things that are going on now, defense is not letting down, and definitely research and development and those things are going to continue to strive to look for private companies and the commercial space to help fulfill those contracts. And even at the small municipalities or your local city, they all have regulations on compliance and data security. So now let's move into resilience. So we talked about revenue. That was the biggest play, right? We kind of know getting our compliance in place. We want to bid on contracts, and the revenue kind of feeds into everything else here. So how does resilience help our return on investment? We all know if you're down and you can't perform your business, you're losing revenue, right? And at no time do we want to be losing that revenue because of a down infrastructure or anything like that. So there's 3 big things. They kind of combine into one, but obviously incident response, business continuity, and disaster recovery. Each one of those has a different function. Some of them are combined into one, but incident response is really either cyber incident or a operational business kind of incident that could happen to bring down your operations and your systems, and looking at whether that's a breach or ransomware or a virus or anything like that that can bring down kind of your information systems. And the incident response is really when it comes to like a breach, and what's your reporting requirements and what's your recovery requirements. So it's really the other two, business continuity and disaster recovery, doesn't kind of really include the reporting unless it's downtime to a client. But it's super important to have your reporting structure in your incident response. When there is a breach, what are your requirements to actually communicate that to the regulatory body, which actually kind of goes down to my last one, really avoiding shutdown orders or forced remediation. All right. So, by reporting these and having a good incident response in place, what we're trying to prevent is having to cease business, right? And that. So really from an operation standpoint, investment should be made into these three plans. And these three plans are really going to reduce your downtime and your reporting requirements and provide that meeting your SLA objectives, but also maintaining revenue because your systems are still in place, right? So we do a lot in the healthcare, and if you have your medical records, electronic records are going down. In the past you would switch back over to paper records for a while and then back in. Well, I mean, that's really, then you got paper records all around. You're paying for personnel to do all that, tracking all that, and getting those back into the system when it's down. When the reality is you could be on a cloud solution or anything else and bring those systems back up very quickly, and not have to go to any kind of paper or physical or manual effort. And it's great to have those plans, but are you testing those plans? And one of our expertise here is building simulations, and not just generic ones that you're downloading and kind of going through ransomware for the 5th time that year. No, like picking specific incidents and threats to your organization. That's kind of where it comes into your risk register or any kind of risk assessments or security testing that you've done. That's why it's super important. That's the return on investment on some of the other controls with your assessment, is that now you can actually do testing and simulation against those, right? And that's how your testing should be performed, and that's what you should be doing on a regular cadence. Have you done an incident response training this year? Have you tested your plan this year? It should be tested at least annually, if not quarterly. Okay. I threw a quick bullet in here just for supply chain. And really knowing who your supply chain is. I worked for a client that, as we were going through COVID, again, another print shop, a different one than the merger acquisition, but they were printing statements, and the supply chain for their paper came from a specific location in Wisconsin. During COVID, that paper plant shut down, and they were no longer able to print paper statements for a very large financial institute. And just knowing the supply chain, right? Knowing who your partners are. Business compliance doesn't stop in your internal walls. It should also be carried out and evaluated with your business partners throughout the supply chain, and understanding what their security requirements are and partnering with them. If you have a strategic client that you're working with and they're unsecure, and they could lose their ability to help fulfill your contracts, this is not the time to beat them with a stick. It's say, hey, we're a partner. This is what we're doing. And you should be evaluating down your supply chain who your partners are and ensuring that they're secure. So again, to avoid the shutdown, and especially with CMMC, there are flow down requirements to all subcontractors. And so you really need to know not only what your compliance requirements are and the return on investment there, but the return on investment of your partners within the supply chain. And then cloud. One of the biggest thing here with CMMC is in any kind of municipalities, government contracts, and that is moving to a secure cloud. And a couple of those I threw in here just because of the gov side. Azure Gov, M365, GCC High. These things can offload not only your infrastructure, but reduce compliance overhead and help speed up SLA recovery. So really, I know we look at moving to the cloud like Dynamics or NetSuite or Salesforce from a business objectives, but Salesforce has like Salesforce Shield that can help meet PCI requirements. And as you move to the cloud, don't forget about compliance. Don't forget about security. Really start looking at your cloud choices or your SaaS solutions and applications, and ensure that whoever you're picking to fulfill that business need for you, your business operations need, also fulfills your compliance and security needs. So really, that should be part of your due diligence process as you move from your on-prem to the cloud environment. And all of these things help reduce that mean time to recovery. Really, you can cut down recovery from 48 hours to 4 hours, and a lot of these efforts that you're putting in place and doing the training. And that's the goal here. And the quicker we can get back up and going, the quicker we can get that return on investment from our products and get back out there from a sales standpoint and provide that services that we're providing. So really, resilience plays a big role, and the investment of resilience plays a big role in an opportunity to increase revenue. And if you're showing your clients this investment that you've made in these cloud and redundant systems, you're showing them, you're giving them confidence that, you know, you've lowered compliance costs for yourself, but you've reduced downtime for your clients. You've got faster recovery. You've improved efficiencies for the services that you're providing them. You've reduced the risk. You've saved on insurance costs, cyber insurance, if you guys gone out there in the premiums, and what you're paying on cyber insurance. All these are requirements to reduce those premiums. And it just builds trust within your clients. It uplifts the revenue by having these streamlined processes. Let's go to the third R, reputation. If you're a publicly traded company, this is a huge one. But you don't have to be a publicly traded company either to be impacted by your reputation, especially in the supply chain. You know, if there's multiple kind of private companies providing a service, you know, they're going to choose the one with the best brand, the best reputation. That's who they're going to work with. It's not always about the cheapest contract or the cheapest service. It's really coming down to that brand. Brand might be, yeah, you have low prices, but the reality is, you know, how do you look in the industry? How do you look out there, you know, to the public? And how you look to the public, really go ahead and publicize it. Every single certification, whether it's SOC 2, PCI, CMMC, anything that we work with our clients, we help build a go-to-public strategy. All right, updating your website to boost your audit reports or your privacy requirements. You know, making a news announcement. Hey, so-and-so has just achieved CMMC certification. Hey, we just achieved ISO 27001. Go to market with it. Make a PR statement. You know, publish that you've accomplished these things. All these are good brand and marketing, you know, tasks and objectives that you should be doing. It builds that investor confidence, right? And a quick example of this, and I'm going to go through, you know, and everybody's heard about Target, and we'll just use that one because it's most public. But just looking at how stock we have a client that's a multi-billion-dollar client, and their stock can fluctuate from, you know, over 7% throughout the year, back and forth, right? And that's a lot. When you're a multi-billion-dollar company, that's a lot of room there of if there is a breach and you're losing that much value, and what Tesla's been doing with like the incidents that they've been handling, right, and where the stock value is going, and just how much like DeepSeek AI kind of impacted the NVIDIA chip, right? So it's these things, security and confidence and trust. You don't want a breach or non-compliance to impact your stock value, right? And really, this is where your reputation can come in and you can bolster your compliance requirements, go to public with it. It also tracks top talent. If you're looking to get the top talent, they're going to look at those brands where they want to be at, right? They're going to pick between one competitor and another. And the funny thing is, everybody, when you hear about a breach or somebody this and it gets out to the news, they're like, man, I don't want to deal with that company. I don't, and they don't want to work at that company either, right? So the really cyber attacks and incidents really can impact the confidence of customers wanting to trust your brand and the confidence of employees even wanting to work there. So your reputational damage is super important, and by investing in cybersecurity and compliance, that helps bolster that reputation. And let's just take at some things. We've all looked at the target, but let's look at really how their investment turned the company around during this period. Obviously stock's kind of going down now a little bit in there as I was doing my research, but during this period when they had their breach, and they reported that 4 million customers and then 10 million individuals, their stock dropped 10%. And that might not be much, but if you look at it, it fell from $63 to $56, just in that low period. Now imagine your company, and if your company fell down 10% if you're publicly traded, or imagine if because of a breach you lost 10% of your business, or 10% of your customers canceled their subscriptions, or just a 10% impact because of a breach. Imagine that on your organization. Most of our revenue budgets and goals for the year are trying to at least increase by 10%, but now you just fell back. How many years is that going to set you back? Not only that, the facing the lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, and customer trust, you're losing all of that because of one incident. But what did Target do? Target really made a huge investment, and these are some of the things I pointed out on that one slide there. They hired a CISO, right? If you look at it, a lot of companies say, hey, we can get away from them. We have a CIO, right? And they're focused on IT and that. I'm telling you, nowadays there's a role that IT can't handle, and that's what I pointed out: the compliance requirements, the endpoint, the return on investment, the KPIs. I say I'm an expert at curating the regulations that are out there. There was another stat, and I don't have it offhand, but there's regulations that are happening on a daily basis. And if you don't have somebody in that seat that can curate those regulations and see how they pertain to your business, that's just a weak spot, and that can really impact your revenue. And that's really an opportunity to hire somebody to kind of show, and it's one of the kind of due diligence things. Do you have a chief information security officer on staff, right? Target made that. They also, implemented some network segmentation and real-time threat monitoring. They put in the chip technology, and really, look at that investment. $100 million in security upgrades, and created that kind of threat monitoring, cybersecurity operations, and intelligence sharing, right? So a huge investment that they made from 2014 to 2015. And that increased their stock by $80. All right, so it went back up to $80 in the mid 2015, higher than before the breach. So a lot of companies say, well, man, the breach helped them out. No, there was a period there where layoffs and everything else and customer trust, and if they wouldn't have made the investment, may have dropped or been acquired by somebody else, possibly from one simple breach. You've seen this happen in the industry. Companies fail, and other companies come in and pick them up because they can't recover or make the investment, or they don't make the investment to recover. And it's great to see that they recovered and made those investments. And that's really where I hope that as you guys go through, to not have to do reactive recovery, that we're proactively managing our risk and making those investments, so we don't have to quickly make $100 million investment at one time that over a 1 year span to kind of make those security upgrades, right? We're making that 100 million or that $1 million investment over multiple years by slowly improving our infrastructure and our security posture and our compliance response, and just working on that kind of effort to be able to bid on those security contracts. So quickly here, and as we get into the last few minutes of the presentation here in our webinar for today, how do we make that transition? And how do we give ourselves a competitive edge for compliance and security controls? And it all really starts with your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, right? Again, it's the kind of return on investment CISO that, yes, we want to protect our model, right? Faster compliance, stronger security, and resilience, right? All those investments should be part and integrated into your sales and marketing material, all right? And really, if you're a secure print shop, if you're a pharmaceutical company, how do you put your bullets in there of what you guys do, and then at the end you say, hey, we're SOC 2 certified, or we're a high trust certified, or we've gone through ISO compliance. Really putting a shield or a lock right through your marketing material, having that strategy of how are we going to give ourselves a competitive edge over our peers in the industry by bolstering our new investment in security. Hey, we're in the cloud, we're not on-prem. We're remote, we have remote drivers, we have, whatever that is, those things that you've done and you've made investments in IT really should also be part of whatever business need you're fulfilling, and including those in your marketing material. So if you're not in IT and you're in the marketing space and the sales space, and that one more question you can ask your clients, hey, I know that you're comparing pricing that's out there or comparing other solutions, but are they secure? Have they gone through SOC 2 compliance? Are they ISO 27001 certified? Are they PCI certified? We're selling a payment gateway here, and we're doing financial services and taking credit cards, and we are PCI certified. Is it the other customers you're looking at, do they have these certifications, and are they providing these services? We have a redundant network. We have offshore resources that we can support you 24/7. We have security staff. We're monitoring your accounts and your customers through our security operations center. We have reporting. We test our incident response plan. All these things that I covered in today's slide should be part of your sales talk. It really should be part of it. It depend. I don't know. Even if you're selling, I don't know, roller skates online, hey, our payment processing, you can order, and rent that, and our payment page is PCI certified, and we trust taking credit cards on our page, right? How many times have we seen that? And a lot of people shop through Amazon just because they know it's secure. But how do you compete with Amazon? How are you going to be the one that sells your stuff? You need to bolster that same security. If you're an enterprise company, it's super tough selling a product when there's multiple different products that are out there, like Dynamics or Salesforce or that. And how do you get your niche product in there to be in there, right? That's filling a specific pain point for that client that the others can't. Security needs to be part of that sales pitch. Internal alignment. So really, as a company, it's not what we see a lot when we're out to conferences, and it depends on which ones we're at, but when there's the presidents and the owners and their wives at an annual meeting for the year, and they go through the vendor hall because they have to, because we sponsored it, and we say, hey, how's your compliance and security? The common thing that we hear is, oh, our IT department takes care of that. Well, how do you know they are? Are they certified? Is there any oversight? Like, how does the C-suite actually know these things are getting done, right? And so from two different angles here, the C-suite should sponsor and go seek out these certifications and compliance requirements, and the IT department or whoever's handling or owning those security controls should be producing KPIs up to management, right? There's that bridge. That's what we call it with our C services is the bridge between the IT sponsor and the upper management and the board, and producing that KPIs, and then helping again from a marketing standpoint in sales and revenue, resilience, and reputation, kind of showing these things that we're doing and producing that oversight and those KPIs, and understanding that this is not an IT thing. We need champions on every team, whether it's underwriting, HR, everybody needs to have a security and compliance champion, right? And that's really kind of the integration there. And management needs to understand, again, this is not an IT issue. Security should be part of business operations. It should be integrated into all aspects of your organization. And it doesn't stop. It's not a check the box. We're not done. We didn't get our certification and that's it. Now we can go to the market. Again, another miss by the CFO, whoever's doing business. Oh, we checked that off. We're done. We can get rid of that VC, so we don't need his help anymore. He got us to see our SOC 2, and we're out. We don't need to do business with them anymore. No. Compliance security is a continuous improvement. It's a continuous action. It's monitoring and maintenance. And companies don't want to know that you just checked the box and you just got your SOC 2. They want to know what kind of the SOC operations, the monitoring, the continuous compliance. They don't want to, you fall out of compliance. Oh, I was doing business with you as a payment processor and you failed your PCI compliance this year. Well, I'm gone. I'm going to go pick a new one. Another payment gateway, right? I'm a healthcare and you failed, or you had a breach in health information. The HIPAA data was out there everywhere. I won't be going to that, practitioner anymore. I'm not going to that clinic. I'll pick a new provider. All right. It's continuous improvements. And that's really it. We're down there. I hope that, there's been a lot of talk, like I said, about transforming risk and the opportunity. I really hope some of the examples I gave today helps you out. And please, reach back to me. Again, look me up on LinkedIn, connect. And that's our focus. It's not about checking boxes or restricting business. It's really on what's the right requirement to strengthen your security and build a compliance program that not only protects your organization, but also builds a good, strong marketing plan, go-to-market plan, so you can get new business. And so, again, my name is Ken Squires, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present today. Look us up on LinkedIn, reach out to one of our sales reps, and please connect with us. And like I said, we are going through a strategic business overview to kind of take a look at your business requirements and compliance needs and what you're struggling at to help kind of provide some quick, high level, on demand recommendations for you.